My name's Deanna Clark with the Clark Esposito Law Firm. We are New York City based, but we have clients all over the country and the world. And we focus really on helping companies who want to bring goods into the country and to do so that they don't get in any trouble. Oftentimes companies don't actually think that they could get into trouble until they are in trouble. So obviously as attorneys, normally we have people come to us when there's a problem. But the reason why I like to come out and talk to folks is to help you understand how you could avoid problems. Today's topic, of course, involves tariffs, and that's impacting all of us, whether it's with our businesses, mine included, or if it's with respect to just day-to-day shopping. Oh, can we take the kids here? Oh, things cost more. These are things I've heard, and I'm going to explain why it is that we're facing this. So in any case, I'm going to be talking about our tariff hike that we've been dealing with starting this year with the new administration's trade policies and, the impact on your business. All right. A couple things. We really value education at our firm, and so I wanted to share with you our YouTube channel. We have over 100 videos. They're free, obviously, being on YouTube. Just some related to tariffs here. There's one related to a topic I'll talk about today, tariff engineering. One related to tariff classifications in general. When there's a problem, when to come clean with customs, they have an ability for you to come clean about a problem and you can avoid certain penalties. So if you're aware of something, and I know at least one of you are, there's a way to come clean and not get hit with so many penalties. And then, of course, there's the Liberation Day tariff. So all these and lots of other topics are on our YouTube channel, Clark Esposito Law Firm. And I invite you to subscribe. So, what are these Liberation Day tariffs? This is really what I want to begin with. These were issued, I think it was April 2nd. They went into effect April 5th. And what it effectively did was it added a 10% additional amount of duties on goods from every country. So now Canada and Mexico had already had 25% put on there, and I'll explain what duties are in a moment. But this was the impact. And of course, true to form, shortly thereafter, the president changed his mind and now indicated that we're going to put it on pause for 90 days. With the 10%, there was then an extra level of duties on a select set of countries. So these range from 11% to 50%. And just to give you, a sampling of them, it used to be 34% for China. Now it's 145%. That just went up. But 32% for Switzerland, 24% for Japan, 20% for the EU, 25% on imports of foreign vehicles. And so the question is, what does this really mean, right? Because I know that there's been a lot of confusion around what is actually a tariff. And what I want to do is I want to explain how tariffs ordinarily work. So we have what we would call ordinary levels of duties. And understand, I've been doing customs work for nearly 20 years, and I was a litigator before. Ordinarily, the tariff stays the same. We've maybe had 4 revisions a year. Right now, our tariff is already at its 10th revision, okay? And that's just since February. So it's highly unusual to have this much happening with the tariff. And ordinarily, I'll give a simple mathematical example. Let's say the shirt I'm wearing is subject to a 10% rate of duty. This 10% is based on a classification number, the tariff classification number. So it's a 10-digit number, okay? And hopefully most of you are familiar with this. If you're relying on your customs brokers, I want you to go and request some of those shipments, some of the entry packets they're called, and go ahead and take a look through them. How is your broker rating the invoice, it's called? How are they matching things up? Are they correctly applying any free trade agreements or preferential trade agreements that you may have available? And understand, if you are importing from a country where there is a preferential trade agreement and you're not taking advantage of it, you could actually get into trouble for not taking advantage and indicating that on your customs entries as well. Because you want to remember, your broker works as an agent for you, but the responsibility of doing your customs business lawfully falls on you, the importer. And this burden of proof occurred in 2003 with something called the Customs Modernization Act. In any case, so if this shirt of mine had a 10% rate of duty, that means for every $1,000 worth of shirts imported, me, the importer, or you, the importer, would have to pay 10% of that $1,000 value to U.S. Customs as a tax known as duties. So that would be $100, okay? With these additional duties, it takes that 10%, the regular amount, now there's an additional 10%, okay? And then if you're in the EU, for example, you've got this additional amount. And so it's just become really astronomical and quite frankly, cost prohibitive. As a result, of course, of the retaliatory tariffs that we've seen. So for example, if any of you are importing something and then turning around and selling it overseas, clearly the costs on both sides are problematic. And actually, I was dealing with this morning with some machines where the order had been put in February. The machines needed to be built. 50% of the payment had been made. Then it turns out this week actually is supposed to be the shipping week. Of course, I think it's just over $1 million that my client is now facing because of the Chinese retaliatory duties. So, they import in order to make the product, then they have a finished product and they turn around and sell it. So the question is, how can we remedy this? Is there a solution? And there isn't actually a single solution, but I'm going to stick to importers. So, but I wanted to explain how this ordinarily, works. Now, some things were excluded, things like pharmaceuticals, some things related to energy products, semiconductors. Unfortunately, nothing related to stone or tile, nothing there was included. And I'll tell you, this whole question about what are our clients doing about it, it's really a mixed bag, right? It's, can we have the same product, manufacture it another way so that it no longer is classified under this 10-digit tariff number? It now can go into a different number. I'll give you an example. We had a client who, there's like a cosmetic bag. When you go into a Macy's or something, there will be a gift with purchase. And so there may be, a little sack that comes with it. Well, the client, they had a rubber plastic coating on the exterior. And we found that the same functionality by putting it on the inside, so on the interior side, reduced the amount of duties required because it went from being an article coated in this rubber plastic, to being a textile, okay? And so it just put it into a different category within the US, it's called the Harmonized Tariff Schedule, which is where all of our tariffs are listed. It put it in a completely different classification number, and that saved the client actually hundreds of thousands of dollars. So the idea is, how can we keep the same functionality, keep the same quality level, but change its tariff number? And this is this concept of tariff engineering that I had mentioned earlier that I would come back to. One of the things that, I was looking actually through chapter 68 this morning, where there's a lot of stone and tile classified in that chapter. And there's actually quite a number of things that are free or under 10%, which, just FYI, that's really good. But I can appreciate how now having an extra 35% makes all the difference to profit. And if you've got extended contracts, what does that mean? Or you've priced things out with your retailers, or you're trying to price things out to put it into someone's home, where do you actually land? And so one thing, in addition to the tariff engineering that companies are trying to make sense of, is just to confirm, am I even classifying these as the right, under the right tariff number? Because oftentimes importers are relying on their customs broker. They must know what they're doing. They're licensed by the government. I get it. But it's important to recognize that the tariff changes, and also, our brokers are just a volume business, right? They can only do so much for, I don't know, maybe you pay upwards of 200, some of you are probably paying under 100, right, for each entry. And so there comes a point where you have to come forward and say, hey, we need to check this out, right? Is this really the right thing? Customs duties, you should know, collection of those are the number 2 source of federal income that our government receives. And that's after income taxes. And the goal, or at least one of them, of the president, is to now have an increase in revenue coming into the federal government for, I'm not actually sure what purpose given all the layoffs, but that's the idea, right, in theory. So with that, then it's, and I see this all the time, customs comes and, they ask a question here or there. There's something called a CF-28 or a CF-29. These are customs forms, CF. One is where they just come and ask questions, and one is where they take action. And that action typically is a rate advance. So you think you have this 10-digit classification number. They say it's this one, and by the way, you owe us all this money. And the problem is customs can go back 5 years and look at your customs entries and say, okay, well, you owe us money for all these 5 years, and by the way, you did this incorrectly, so we're going to hit you with penalties also. Okay, so whether you're starting out or whether you've been in the business a while, that's something you want to do for that reason. But it's also something we're seeing clients aiming to do, just to know that, hey, this is what we're even supposed to be paying. Because in the event it's not what they're supposed to be paying, they can go back and do the post-entry corrections. Another thing they're looking at is what other countries can we source from? And I know with certain stones, like you can't source from somewhere else. But is there another product that your clients would also be happy with? Okay, some customers know we must have this. Other customers, this is akin to that as far as they're concerned. So is there some other thing that could be bought from another country? In particular, China right now is really where it's bad. But of course, there's other countries, and there's countries where we have free trade agreements, like with Morocco, which is beautiful stone, as many of you know. And with that, you actually don't pay duties. It's under this trade agreement. Another thing that our customers are doing is, just China aside, who are the countries where we have preferential or free trade agreements? And in that case, and by the way, this is Googleable. Like, this isn't something you need to hire a lawyer for, okay? But it's U.S. free trade agreements. And then our commercial service, there are a series of export assistance centers around the U.S. who offer a service to help you find suppliers in other countries, suppliers or buyers. But they would be a good place to start to help you find where you may be able to source your materials from other countries. Something we're offering for clients, in addition to if you want to talk with us, we do have an intake meeting that you can, it's complimentary, but you can sign up for that. But we have, if you'll go ahead and pass these around, we have a digital customs compliance assessment. And what it's going to do is it's a series of questions to help you get a snapshot of your compliance levels across key customs areas. So be it classification, valuation, country of origin, are you marking things properly, et cetera, okay? And so, we are offering that as well. Separate from this, just as a bonus for attending, if you want to scan this QR code, we do have a tip sheet in addition to this risk assessment that you all just got a postcard on. a tip sheet related to customs compliance. And lastly, I wanted to mention, we do have our Tariff Enhance and Tariff Insure programs. If you'd like to learn more, this has to do with a review you may want to do related to your classification numbers, to your customs business in general. And everybody who comes to our office starts with an intake meeting that's done with one of our legal assistants, and it's complimentary.
Thank you for explaining a obviously very difficult, confusing topic. All right?
My pleasure. Thank you,
All right.
everyone. And I'm
Are you
happy
go- are you gonna
to
be around
speak
for a little
after.
bit?
Yeah,
So if
I'll
you
be
wish to
around
speak
today
with her
and tomorrow.
after. All right?
Thank
Let's
you.
thank